weather in the continental U.S. this winter promises to be brutal. Be sure if you're in this area to read hockey romances. Whereabouts in New England, you're going to want some historical romances. Now down here along this area, this is where the spicier romances are going to need to be read. But up here though, you're probably going to need some closed door romances. Whereas in the middle of the country, you could go either way, either contemporary or historical cowboy romances. It's up to you. That's the look at the national forecast. Now here's Mama Needs to Read Romance. Hey everybody, it is the beginning of spring, so what better time than now to go over my top 10 books of winter. Don't count them, it's 10, just trust me. We're going to be looking at my favorite novels and novellas from December of 2024 and January and February of 2025. Again, you don't need to count, it's 10, not 12. Let's start with some novellas. We've got The Fall Risk by Abby Jimenez. I really enjoyed this tale of two people who are something of shut-ins for very different reasons. They're both dealing with their own private pain until one weekend the stairwell of their second floor walk-up is ripped away and they're stuck together for the entire weekend. They get to really connect and it was so much fun. There's pretty much no spice in this at all, but I still found it incredibly gripping, compelling, even exciting, so do check your trigger warnings because there's some crazy stuff that goes down. Not only that, Abby Jimenez finds a way to connect this to one of her other novellas, The Worst Wingman Ever, and I always love some good Easter eggs, so I was here for it. Another novella I just loved was by the great Olivia Fleur. Apparently she's the queen of historical romance novellas and she can do so much with like under 40 pages. I couldn't believe it. My usual gripe with novellas is that they're not long enough. I don't feel that the characters have feelings for one another. It just isn't working for me, but this one worked in spades. And this cover, one of the most gorgeous I think I've ever seen. I love it so much. She has changed it since. Basically this covers Maria and Frederick. They've just gotten married. They're looking for some alone time together to connect and they're having trouble finding it. Our hero is just an incredible man and I'm just so happy with the way he steps up for our heroine. If you're looking for something short, sweet, that you can read in an afternoon or an evening that's just fun and spicy, I can't recommend this highly enough. Another novella that's supposed to be a Christmas one, but you can read really any time of year, is A Christmas Spark by Diana Biller, which follows the parents of a gentleman we come to meet in another book I'm going to be talking about in a minute. But these are two people, they're scientists who sort of bumble around one another until they realize that they each are pining for the other. It's quiet, it's beautiful, it's deep, it's set in a remote village in the countryside in the 1800s. Little to no spice, but it really delivers on the emotion and the tension. Everyone I know that's read it has just adored it. Another historical romance that's supposed to be kind of Christmassy, but really you can read it any time of year, is 3 Days to be Ruined by Giovanna Siniscalchi. This one is set at a Portugal, I believe, vineyard. It is absolutely breathtaking. The scenery, the way she describes our hero's home, which is basically set up like a museum because he needs to prove to himself that he can have nice things, including the woman who is betrothed to him against her will. She's this high-born lady. He is a Scottish Highlander, essentially, who doesn't get the respect that he deserves. He's trying to overcome society's feelings about the Scots living there. This was beautifully spicy, gorgeously written. I loved the tension. It was so much fun and it made me a Giovanni Siniscalchi superfan. So third time's the charm. I'm going to talk to you about another Christmas novella that you can read any time of year. It's also historical romance. This is Fenna Edgewood's The Countess's Christmas Groom. I think I've mentioned this to just about everyone I've spoken to. I try to bring it up in conversation whenever I can. This was one of my favorites. I am now so into Fenna Edgewood as well. I can't wait to read more of her things. But this book here is the beginning of a series that focuses on the aristocratic siblings that live, at the top, and then the family that works for them. So it's very much a Downton Abbey upstairs, downstairs type situation. And in this book, we have a woman who is a widow. She's sort of a pariah because everyone believes she killed her awful, awful husband. One night they're at a Christmas party, which they've had to call people from the stables actually up to the house to be butlers, even though that's not necessarily their thing, to work this Christmas party. So this stable groom comes to be a butler and he and this widow just start immediately connecting. He sees her upset and he comes to her aid. The beautiful way that he has with scared horses really translates well to the empathy that he can have and the way that he can calm people. This was so yummy. The spice was beautiful. Beautiful. I had such a great time with this book. And like I said, I need to read the rest of this series. So good. The last shorter book I want to talk about is by my favorite gal, Cara Bastone. She's one of my favorite contemporary authors of all time, and I had such a great time interviewing her on my channel. She's just amazing. But she wrote Maybe This Time, which many of you I know have already enjoyed. This is an Audible original, only to be found in audio and like Dolby Surround, not in print at all. It's got a full cast, there's sound effects, and it focuses on a woman who is stuck 80 years in the future after traveling into a wormhole, and she somehow is able to use her cell phone one day to call back 80 years in the past to a gentleman who she taught with. They don't really know each other, they're not really friends, and she helps convince him to convince old her not to walk into the wormhole. But as they spend all this time on the phone together and she's helping him to tear the walls down of her old self, feelings start to develop. It was fascinating. It was so fun. And I loved finding out after the fact that the hero, the man who narrated, is none other than this gentleman from Schitt's Creek. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. He did a great job. Both of them did. And I just cannot wait for Cara Bastone's next release. It's going to be amazing. Now, earlier in this video, you may have remembered me mentioning The Widow of Rose House. We had Diana Biller on our Tea and Biscuits book club not too long ago, which was such an incredible experience. It's so funny. Many of us who read this, we were shocked because the cover isn't necessarily one that historical romance fans would necessarily gravitate towards, but it's that old adage, never judge a book by its cover, right? I mean, it's so true in this situation. I think many of us were worried that it would be kind of stuffy or too gothic, but really it hits a beautiful, spiritual, spooky, gothic vibe while at the same time really holding true to the historical romance things that we love. The hero, Dr. Samuel Moore, when we did our best book boyfriend bracket of 2025 back in February, Dr. Samuel Moore almost took the whole thing because he's that yummy and delicious of a cinnamon roll hero. I adore this man. And this woman, she's a fierce heroine trying to make her way in the world, trying to make it as an author. But there's a villain who wants to take her down. But Dr. Samuel Moore, who studies ghosts of all things, wants to help her. And as the two of them work to try to solve this mystery, to uncover what's going on in this house that she's desperate to take on, mysteries are solved, beautiful spice happens. It's amazing. I can't recommend this highly enough, truly. If you're even thinking about it, please read it. You will love it. I had the pleasure of having Katie Naiman on my channel earlier this year as well. Good Night. This is the first book that this author has ever written. It is insanely good. We have two writers that meet for grad school who used to know one another. They hate each other's guts, or do they? They're sort of stuck in forced proximity with one another as they are forced to work through each other's poetry and seem to discover whether or not they are really in each other's heads, as only maybe poetry can reveal. This level of angst, the tension, the slow burn was so engrossing, so perfect. I loved the college setting as well, but these were mature people too. Because they're in grad school. But anyway, it was so good, and I cannot wait for her to write something else, because I'm telling you, and I said this before and I'll say it again, Katie Naiman, remember that name, she's gonna be big. It's gonna be big. This was so good. As I'm filming this, I'm like all but 5% done listening to one of the best books I've read this year, which is 9 Rules to Break When Romancing a Rake by Sarah MacLean. My members voted that for me, and I'm so thankful that they did because I'm really, really enjoying it. But I also really enjoyed Knockout by Sarah MacLean. This was one that I buddy read with Terry back in the day. What was it, January? Feels so long ago. This is the 3rd book in the Hell's Bell series. For me, this is the best one that I've read so far. I enjoyed this so much. We have, let's look at the back too while we're talking. We have a curvy heroine, which I also love, and she is into chemistry and bomb blasting and all of that, trying to solve a mystery with a police officer, for lack of a better term. I'll say he's a detective. Let's say that. That's better. The two of them tangle. They're both hard-nosed, and they both have their own parts to play in discovering mysteries. They're on different sides, or are they? Editor B coming at you. I'm looking at this right now and realizing that I neglected to say that this is a mystery that really started. Oh my gosh, look at my wall. It really started in the first book or even the second book. So I do recommend this if you're going to read the whole series, which starts with Bombshell and Heartbreaker. Another aspect that I didn't mention, this is class differences again. She's this highborn lady. He is a detective from the wrong side of the track, so to speak. It was really neat to see each of them in each other's worlds. So I wanted to add that. Anyway, back to other me. I just adored this. It was exciting. The chemistry was amazing. Another fabulous hero in just the way that he takes care of her, the things that he says to her. I loved Terry, who read this a little faster than I did, kept saying, "Get your swooning chair out." Because it really is just beautifully written. The love scenes are fantastic. Yeah, it's really everything that you want in an historical romance, especially for some of us. I know people have said lately, some historical romance just isn't as interesting. It's not as exciting. You're going to get that here. Another one that just sort of fell into my lap. I was so excited to read it. It's Only in Your Dreams by Ellie K. Wilde. This, I had not heard of this author before, but something about the cover I think just reached out to me. So I grabbed the ARC and I'm so glad I did because this book is so much fun. We have two enemies to lovers. If you're enjoying that trope, you're gonna love this. Also, our hero is her brother's best friend, or he was. Whatever happened, we don't know. Even though this is a football romance, it's not students, it's a coach. She does, I think, physical therapy, I wanna say. The book actually starts, a good bit of it is camping. And so they are forced together during quite the camping trip where they work things out and maybe some feelings are known and maybe some spice is had before they figure out what are they gonna do in the real world. This hero, as I mentioned in another video, is more of an alpha than I'm usually into. He's extremely protective, maybe a smidge possessive, but it worked. It worked for me. This was a little bit coarser, I think, than I usually tend to go for, but I mean, the author really made it work. I was so compelled by the whole thing to the point where the other book that's coming out in July just came out on NetGalley, Just Between Us. I immediately requested it because this one features our hero. This hero was in the last book and he was adorable. So I cannot wait for this gentleman to, one, reveal what's going on with him because there's some things hinted at with regards to his background and what's coming for him. And also, I just want to see him have a happily ever after because he's fabulous and he's yummy, so can't wait. Here comes the biggest surprise I had so far in 2025, The Wolf of Mayfair by Christy Caldwell. This was my first Christy Caldwell, and as I started to read it, I thought, oh no, this is not for me because I did not like the hero at all. But good night, Christy Caldwell is quite the writer, and the wolfish ways of our hero make this book incredibly unputdownable. I had to keep turning pages to see what was going to happen, to see her break down his walls. It's similar to, and I've said this before, it reminds me a little bit of Devil in Winter because we have a rake and we have a redheaded gal who is a lot more fiery and passionate and has more guts than people really give her credit for. And that's what we have in The Wolf of Mayfair as well. We have a damaged rake. He's literally scarred emotionally, physically. And then we have a Scottish lass who is looking for her godmother because she is in a fix. And instead of finding her godmother in the middle of this house in the middle of a snowstorm, she unfortunately finds the son, who is the Wolf of Mayfair. She basically cons him into letting her stay in the house, but you know what? She just can't stay in her room. It's lots of twists and turns, lots of excitement, lots of spice, lots of tension. So good. Can't recommend it highly enough. Last but not least, Promise Me Sunshine by Cara Bastone. Yes, this is the second Cara Bastone I've talked about. This just came out in February and it is beautiful. There's a lot of grief in this and you can tell that our author went through it herself because of the visceral ways in which she describes the grief of our heroine. But we have a gentleman who's also been through grief and he recognizes it in her. He decides to help her get through her grief. Maybe he's able to heal some himself. This is very much set in New York City, like all of the other Cara Bastone books, which is just so fun. I found this to be so real, empathetic, emotional, but also funny. I came away from this read feeling the overall idea that even though life is quite hard, there's beauty to be found, which is a message I don't think we can hear often enough. Can't close out this video without mentioning Promise Me Sunshine. Well, those were my top 10 books of winter. Yes, it was 10. Okay, it was 12, all right? It's a dozen. It's close. Hey, I'm gonna order. What do you want? Can you order me the wonton soup? Don't you mean wonton soup? No, it's wonton. It's wonton soup. It's spicy. It is not wonton. It's hot. It's wonton. And it's delicious. It's wonton. Yes, my friend would like an order of wonton soup. And does she want the sweet or the spicy sauce? Oh, the sweet sauce. The sweet sauce? Why would you have the sauce with soup? One wonton soup with some closed door sauce. That's what I said. Hi, my name's Bea. Welcome to my channel, Mama Needs to Read Romance. And get something to eat. Order up. Hey everybody out there. I'm so excited because today is one of my very favorite videos to do, and that is where I get to recap my favorite reads for the last season. In spring, I read 44 books, and today I'm bringing you my top 10, in no particular order. Let's start with an author who is completely new to me, Gabrielle Meyer. I got to have her on my channel earlier this month. It was such a treat. She's currently writing a series called the Timeless Series, in which we have a heroine. She's living in 2 different eras. And in the book that was just released recently, May 20th to be exact, Every Hour Until Then, our gal is living in 1888 and 1938. Now in 1938, she has a fantastic job. She works at the Smithsonian and is creating a new exhibit of the recently unclassified documents on Jack the Ripper. In doing this, she discovers that in 1888, his final victim was her sister. So now in 1888, her biggest concern is saving her sister's life. The problem, if you alter the timeline, you have to give up that path forever. And the love of her life just happens to be in 1888. I was on the edge of my seat for a great majority of this book. It was really neat to see characters that are actually real people from history. Gabrielle does an extensive study of her time periods before she even writes a word. And you can tell, and I am really eager to read the rest of this series. I never in a million years would have thought that I would be into historical Western romances, but thanks to Megan and our 12 Recs by 12 Friends, I am now obsessed. I just read Texas Destiny by Lorraine Heath, which is book 1 of the Texas trilogy. And there's a bonus novella, by the way. This is a sweeping love story in which we have a mail-order bride who's desperate to make a better life for herself after fleeing Georgia to marry a man sight unseen in Texas. She arrives on the train in Fort Worth, expecting to see her fiance, but instead is picked up by his brother, who has quite a few skeletons in his closet. He's still scarred inside and out from the things that happened during the Civil War. He's sworn off love and really people in general. But as the two of them travel through the wild, wild west, where one crazy thing after another happens, their walls start to come down and they start to fall for each other. But what's a guy to do when the woman you're falling for is betrothed to your brother? Oh, it was so good. I cannot wait to read the rest of this series. And Lorraine Heath, oh my gosh. She is a gem of a writer. I also had the pleasure of getting an advanced copy of The Duke's Dream by Giovanna Siniscalchi. I just adore her. She's going to be on my channel on Wednesday, May 28th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Really looking forward to talking to her all about this fabulous book, The Duke's Dream. This is the first book of the Swans of Paris series, and it's almost out. This is definitely more intense and way more spicy than what I normally read. I still ate it up because of the incredibly gripping writing by Giovanna Siniscalchi, who was actually a ballerina in her pre-author life. So neat. She uses some of her own experiences and a great deal of historical research to bring us this incredible story in which a duke who has been haunted by a woodland sprite, a beautiful woodland sprite. She's been in his dreams for 10 years and she's always been out of reach. But one day she slams into him when he enters the theater and he is absolutely obsessed with her. If you enjoy a hero who is tortured and is trying to exorcise his demons while not being incredibly passionately in love with someone, this is the book for you. It's ridiculously intense, as I mentioned, and super spicy, as I mentioned. What I did not expect, though, is the fact that even during the scenes in which there's music and dancing, those are just as sensual as the love scenes themselves. I loved the history, the ensemble cast, getting a chance to see the world of the ballerinas from Paris, who are basically refugees in London during the time of Napoleon. It was fascinating, a great read. Another one of my favorites is another road trip, actually, but this one's set in present day. This is Left of Forever by Tara DeWitt, which you may have heard me mention before, definitely needs to be read after Savor It, which I have not read. So So I do need to read that. But there are some spoilers for Savor It in Left of Forever. Lots of things are referenced there, and I think you would have an even better time with Left of Forever if you've read Savor It first. However, I gave it 5 stars, and I'd never read Savor It. So there you have it. This is about a couple who is trying to decide if maybe they can make it work one more time. They married very, very early upon the surprise teen pregnancy that our lady underwent. They made it work though, but after a certain period of time, and check your trigger warnings, they unfortunately decided to divorce. Now their son, Sam, is going to be graduating and going off to college, and his wish is for them to take him. Our hero decides that perhaps they can work through some things on the way back. Of course, Sam's not going to be there. So they decide to make it a 1-week-long trip through Southern California on a very fun road trip, which is not supposed to be romantic, but might just wind up being that. I'm so thankful that the Tea and Biscuits book club picked If the Duke Demands by Anna Harrington. I am now an Anna Harrington super fan. I've already bought the Christmas prequel novella, How the Duke Saved Christmas, because I just wanted to enjoy the series from the beginning to the end. This, by the way, is the first book in the Capturing the Carlyles series. We have a woman who is obsessed with Robert. So one night during a masquerade ball, in her mask, she goes to Robert's bedroom and tries to seduce him while still wearing her mask, and so is he. But then she discovers, that's not Robert, that's Sebastian, Robert's older brother. Well, the two of them realize clearly they have quite a bit of chemistry, but they can't do anything about it. He has to marry a titled lady. She's just a farmer's daughter. Thankfully, her long, wonderful relationship with the Carlyle family has created this sort of found family aspect where they want to sponsor her for her very own season. So she goes along with them. Sebastian's supposed to be like the older brother type who's going to help her potentially capture the interest of his brother Robert. But that's not quite how things work out. Maybe some of that chemistry they experienced earlier is still banging around in those heads there. I adored the spice. I loved the slow burn. I loved the characters. I need to see what happens to some of these guys though, because they're rakes and I want to see what happens to them. I also really loved the settings, such as behind the stage at an opera hall or in the woods at Vauxhall Gardens. Really neat, really fun. Cannot wait to read more of this series and Anna Harrington. I was so pleased that Eloisa James's publishing company reached out to me to offer me Hardly a Gentleman, which is the new book in the Accidental Brides series. This is book 2. I didn't get a chance to read book 1. It doesn't matter. You can read this as a standalone and have the best time. If you're a fan of Disney movies, as I am, this gave me those types of feels, but with a lot of spice. The reason I say that is because we have a very endearing heroine. She makes her own little bags that look like animals, and they're not very popular, but she does her own thing and she's creative, and I love that about her. She gets in trouble for protecting herself from a cad at a ball, and her mother decides to exile her to Scotland. Well, our heroine isn't having any of that. She decides to go on her own adventure. So she decides on her own to get in a different carriage than the one she's supposed to be getting into and pretending to be Mrs. Potts so that she can go to a castle. She doesn't realize though that 1, she's never cleaned a day in her life. So how is this going to work out as someone's housekeeper? And 2, the castle that she's envisioning is not the castle that she winds up at. It's filled with a beautiful, adorable cast of characters from this village who all immediately completely fall in love with her, including our hero, who he's a widower with a reputation as a defeated gentleman. Is he defeated or not, and why is what we will find out. There's plenty of slow burn. In fact, I don't think I can remember a book where I have enjoyed the banter and the slow ways that they circled one another as much. I really can't think of anything that's as good as this one, Hardly a Gentleman. So much fun. Eloisa James, you've done it again. My first 6-star of the year is one that I know many other people have given either 5 or 6 stars to. That's Forever Your Rogue by Erin Langston. I've been chit-chatting with her because I am now an absolute super fan. In fact, the fine print just came out recently on audio, and it's sort of not as well known that it's out. Everybody I know recently, though, that has read it has given it, again, 5 or 6 stars. Erin Langston is incredible, with no plans as of right now to write anything new. So I'm really hoping that she will. I gave her some ideas of things I wanted to see. I'm sure it'll happen. Anyway, she was adorable. My point is, I adored Forever Your Rogue. We really get a chance to see two people, especially our rogue, become a mature man who is going to protect his found family, protect the woman that he loves. Initially, they don't even like each other. Our heroine, let me do a better job explaining this. She needs some help. She needs our rogue to pretend to be betrothed to her because she is going to lose something very near and dear to her if he does not. He's just a cad. As I've mentioned, I use that word a lot today for some reason. That's the word of the day, cad, for some reason. Anyway, we get to see the most beautiful character growth as he pretends to be betrothed to her over a summer. Summer's coming up, guys. This is a great time to read it. In the English countryside, he gets to see the incredible woman that our heroine is and falls madly in love with her and sees also the kinds of things that she's dealing with, in-laws. It swept me away to another place in time and getting to see two people just fall so deeply for each other. It's just so perfectly written. I can't express it well enough. I'm not Aaron Langston, but I do hope if you enjoy historical romance and this has sounded even remotely good to you, that you will pick this up. I can't imagine that you won't be thrilled that you did. One of my huge booktuber bucket list items has been to interview Cara Bastone on my channel. I adore this woman. I'm so grateful she carved out some time to be on my morning show. And I'm so thrilled that we were able to celebrate her new release, Promise Me Sunshine. This one is exceptional if you can get through the aspects of grief that our heroine is dealing with. Her best friend slash sister, honestly, passed away from cancer very young. And our heroine is just unable to really move on. Enter Miles, who sees her and he sees the grief that she's going through because he's experienced something similar himself. The two of them, initially very prickly, like two hedgehogs, come together and work through it. And you get to see something that I just don't tend to see in a lot of contemporary romances because it's so heavy, but the book is better for it. There are a lot of elements that are also laugh out loud funny. Cara Bastone made sure to make it light in many places. The love scene too was so real. I've said this before and I'll say it again. One thing that's a pet peeve of mine is when I read a romance and all of a sudden we get to the love scene and it's like these characters aren't even the same characters anymore. It's just completely different tonally and I just don't feel connected to the characters. It just feels off. But with Cara Bastone, there's something so real and human and adorable, I'll say it, about the love scenes. They're just beautiful. I adore it. I would not have read a book about healing from grief if it had not been written by her because I knew she'd take care of me. So thrilled that I read, and I hope that you do too. And speaking of grief, gosh, here's the other heavy one, which again, check your trigger warnings. I'm not going to mention all of them because some would also be spoilers for the plot. Abby Jimenez's Say You'll Remember Me. This one is incredibly intense, but really good too. Again, very funny. We have two people who fall madly for one another right off the bat. This sometimes doesn't work for some of us who dislike insta-love or insta-lust. This, however, did work because you just got the sense that these are two people with good heads on their shoulders that just recognize they have an incredible connection. It was also very refreshing to read a book that isn't just about will they, won't they, or are they having these feelings or not? Is there a miscommunication? Is there a third act breakup? We didn't have any of that. We don't honestly have time for that because each of them has so many things going on in their own lives. They're desperate though to make it work. Here's the problem. It's not the feelings. They're there. The issue is she's just moved to California and he is still in Minnesota. How can they make this work? Because they really want to. He is an incredible human, like all the heroes Abby Jimenez writes. He is a veterinarian who just opened his own practice. So it's very difficult for him to be able to fly back and forth because he just does not have the money. Then we have our heroine who is definitely going through things. Her mother is dealing with dementia. We actually caught a glimpse of a scene involving this mother in Just for the Summer. A very interesting cameo there. So Samantha and her family are doing all that they can to try to grapple with her mother's condition, which in many places is, I'll say, upsetting. But again, Abby Jimenez reminds us that the most important thing is each other and appreciating the moments that we have. And I loved that overall message. The end of the book had me boo-hooing. I can't even talk about it now because I'm not doing that here. No, Nobody wants that. I know so many people that say Sarah McLean is the best. I enjoyed Bombshell and Heartbreaker. I thought they were fine. Really enjoyed Knockout. But then I got to the book where I think, okay, now I know what everybody's talking about in terms of Sarah McLean. 9 Rules to Break When Romancing a Rake. This one was so much fun. We have a heroine who doesn't want to be on the shelf. She doesn't want to just let life pass her by. So what does she do? She makes a list how she wants to truly live. And on that list is getting a kiss from a rake. Well, guess what? She happens to know a rake. She's had a crush on this guy secretly for so very long. And one night shows up at his home to surprise him and get that kiss, which begins an incredible journey where he actually winds up helping her complete her list. This guy who never would have even noticed her before. I loved seeing him fall for her, be surprised by her, and then do her bidding. Just so much fun. We actually are going to be reading this in the month of June for our Tea and Biscuits book club, and I cannot wait to enjoy this book all over again. Hey there, Editor B coming at you. I just finished another book, so I have to bring this up. Yes, this is a bonus. We're calling it a bonus and not just me lying about 10 and making it 11. It's a bonus. It is Vanessa Vita Kelly's incredible, incomparable When the Tides Held the Moon. I say it's incomparable. Actually, if you're familiar with The Greatest Showman or The Shape of Water, and you liked either of those, you're probably going to love this book as well. This felt epic. It felt like I was watching a movie. We have Benino, or Benny, who is an immigrant from Puerto Rico trying to make it in early 1900s New York City, when all of a sudden he finds himself working with a sideshow act, essentially, at Coney Island. He's designing a tank using his welding skills to hold what turns out to be a merman. This is incredible. I loved the entire ensemble cast of misfits, so to speak, that make up this found family who acts in these side shows at the park. But of course, the thing that takes everyone's breath away is the love that develops between Benny and the name of the merman, who I won't say. I don't think I'm allowed to say. I don't want to disrespect the merman. That sounds so weird. If you read it, you'll understand. Yes, this is an MM romance. If you are looking for like spicy, that is not what you're going to be getting with this book. It has beautiful, soul deep connections that are just incredible. It's some of the most beautiful love that I've ever read. And what's really neat is Vanessa Vita Kelly is not only an author, but also an artist. And they actually incorporate gorgeous illustrations throughout this book. I enjoyed them immensely. It brought it even more to life to me. Those of you that prefer an audiobook, it was done incredibly well by both of the male narrators. And I will say that one of them especially had some heavy lifting to do because there's more accents in this book than you can shake a stick at. It was exciting, exhilarating, deeply, deeply moving, and something that I want to celebrate and hope does amazingly well. Well, those were my 10 favorite books this past spring. Hi guys, it's B. Welcome to my channel, Mama Needs to Read Romance, and today we're talking about my top 10 books for summer. This is a pretty straightforward video. It's my top 10 favorite reads for the months of June, July, and August. Because I've already talked about so many of these already, this is just going to be a quick little video. I hope you still find value in it. Maybe you'll find some new books to love. But regardless, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Emma Claire Sunday was nice enough to give me a signed copy of this book she sent to me at her own expense. I thought this was so dear after I gushed about how much I love this book. It's one of my favorite reads of all time. Sylvia is a fish out of water. She's just been sent to the countryside with her mother and sisters after having lost everything. She's desperate to get back to London, however. She takes a job as a farmer assistant, a farmhand, if you will, on Hannah's farm. Hannah really knows herself, unlike Sylvia, who has no idea who she is. Hannah and Sylvia really grow together as people that really reminded me of like Little Women or Anne of Green Gables, where you're out in nature and it's spiritual. It's beautiful. They concoct a scheme though, because each of them has a dream that they're going to help each other. Sylvia wants to get back to the Ton, as I mentioned, and in order to do that, she needs to wrangle herself a rich husband. We have Hannah, who's willing to pretend to be her lady's maid in order for that to happen. And once she gets her man, that rich man will pay for her to open up her very own cheese shop. Now, I know that sounds like it's out of nowhere, but I adored the way that food was described, cheese especially. It was so cozy and comforting and comfortable and yummy. And when I read the summary initially, I was like, wait, what? A cheese shop? But it all is just so beautifully done. I was boo-hooing at the end of this book. It was just so incredibly beautiful. Very light spice. There's so much focus on things that are so unusual when you look at historical romance, such as class differences, looking at poor versus rich, what's real, what's genuine. This book is so earnest and sincere, was something that was so refreshing. And there are few books like this out there. And I'm really excited to read more by this author. Another one I just finished the other day is going to be perfect for fall. The Honeycrisp Orchard Inn by Valerie Bowman, who many of you know as an historical romance author. She's actually going to be joining us for the Fall Challenge kickoff show on Monday, September 1st at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Cannot wait to have her join us and talk all about this incredible book that seamlessly blends fall vibes and romance hilarity while being just this really great contemporary romance of like a grumpy sunshine woman comes home from being in the big city after really losing it all. It was like the best Hallmark movie that I'd ever seen. In my mind, the only book you need to read this fall if you're looking for those fall feels. This is it, because I've read many. I just went to Goodreads to glance at my notes to make sure that I'm telling you everything as fresh as I can from a book I read back in June. This is Savannah Royals by Lindsay Barrett. And the reason that I mentioned that I went to Goodreads is because I am shocked to see that this book only has 188 reviews so far. How can that be? This is like a hidden gem. This was such a fun ride. It's essentially like The Great Gatsby, but in Savannah, Georgia. We have a woman who is very much morally gray. She grew up with nothing, joined a gang very young. It was actually just a bunch of kids at the time, but as they've grown up, they've become like the gang to beat in Savannah, Georgia. The ringleader of said gang has placed our heroine in a finishing school. The purpose of the school, of course, at this time in the early 1900s is just to get a man, and we're greeted with a lot of old money. This is a great opportunity for their gang to infiltrate all these high class places. The thing that our heroine doesn't expect is that she winds up falling for one of her marks, one of these incredible cinnamon roll sweet heroes who is from old money but also wants to make his name as a doctor. He is an incredible human being. He's not the only one that she's romantically entangled with, however, because she is also with the ringleader of her gang, who is completely the opposite of our other hero. What's a girl to do? We don't know where this is going to end up. Who will she end up with? What path will she choose? Good or evil, if you will. I just keep thinking about it. I was so enraptured with the story. I was like, no, I wanted it to unfold like this. You know what I mean? So that's another way you know that it's really good. Another one that threw me for a loop and kept me guessing, These Summer Storms. This was a fiction book that had a lot of romantic elements in it. I would not call it a romance, but I really enjoyed this book. Now, I know it's gotten mixed reviews, but what I really appreciated about this book is how different it is. We have a family that is the picture of dysfunction. I mean, if you're going to look up dysfunctional in the dictionary, it's going to be this family. They're a mess and they all hate one another. They're only together on this private island that their family owns for 1 week because the patriarch has passed away and he has always made them jump through hoops for his approval. Well, just because he's passed, that doesn't mean he doesn't have more hoops for them to jump through. So he's given them all tasks posthumously through this lawyer who might be a love interest. And if each member of the family completes the tasks, then they get what their father believed to be their rightful inheritance. So many questions come up. Who can you trust? What's everybody's actual motivations? Are they going to be able to complete the tasks? And if they do, what is the inheritance going to wind up being? So many questions, all are answered. Not something I usually enjoy, but MacLean did an excellent job, I thought. It really gave an air of like Knives Out, you know, that movie. I had a really good time with this and I very much recommend it. Another one that really isn't my typical bread and butter, but that I really enjoyed is A Curse for the Homesick by Laura Brooke Robson. This book is definitely bittersweet, even at the end, but I still found it to be endlessly satisfying, amazing, scream-worthy at the very end. Like, oh my gosh. This is about a woman who leaves her island at the very first opportunity because she's terrified that if she stays, she is going to get a curse that causes her to turn anyone who looks at her to stone. This is something that happens on this island off the coast of Scotland, unfortunately, every skeld season, which happens just sporadically. No one knows when it's going to happen, when three women will wake up at the same time and then all of a sudden have three bars kind of tattooed on their foreheads. And then for 3 months, anyone they look at, if they make eye contact, that person turns to stone forever. So our heroine is terrified that this will one day happen to her. She also is desperately in love with one of the people that lives on the island, but he's going to stay. And she can't stay because she doesn't want to eventually be the reason that he turns to stone. This is not a spoiler because this is known very early on in the story, but her mother turned his parents to stone, which is like, whoa, there's a whole other layer. So this is told in multiple timelines. We see things unfolding. We see their relationship, her life outside of Stenland, and what happens when she comes back, which she has to do kind of against her will almost because her best friend is getting married. You can imagine what happens next. And then you'll just be guessing until the very last page. I found this so riveting, so different. I'm very thankful that the publisher reached out to me because if I hadn't really read the summary and given it a long thought before I decided to read this, I don't think I would have. But I'm glad that I did. And I hope that you'll consider it. 2 more, actually, by the same author, that I never would have expected to really enjoy, but I totally did. This is only thanks to Harlequin. And Kristen and I, we had this unboxing where we also read for 30 minutes a book of our choice from the Harlequin box. And I read this. Again, even if I had looked at the summary in a bookstore, I would have said no thank you because the summary is sort of a joke anyway. So if you were to read the blurb, you'd probably, well, if you're like me, you'd go, no. No, thank you. I can tell why they put so much into these books in terms of sprayed edges and beautiful embossing. And not only that, the narrators are Aaron Mallon and Teddy Hamilton, which are, these are really high level narrators. So I thought, okay, let me give this a try. Let me really try this out. And while both of these are definitely higher levels of steam than I typically tend to enjoy and have more adult type scenarios than I tend to gravitate towards, I still found these both to be really endearing. I very much enjoyed all of the fun ways that they incorporated animals and such cute, cozy feels. I loved the family aspect of this, even though our brothers are mountain men, they're a bit rough-hewn. Ultimately, though, they have gorgeous hearts and they adore the plus-size heroines who make up the rest of the amazing cast of this series. Really enjoyed the writing, even though, again, as I said, this is not typical for me, but there's just something warm and fun and romantic about these books that I gravitated to them, and I'm going to be reading far more by Amy Dawes. This one specifically is about the second to oldest brother who is wanting to start a family. He misses his father after his father has passed, but he's also been burned in terms of love. So he believes that what he needs to do to start a family is to have a surrogate who will not be involved in his life at all, but will grant him the family that he is so desperately looking for. Our heroine has fallen on hard times, and she accepts his proposition, moves onto his mountain compound, if you will, with his family, only to discover that they have a lot of chemistry. And also, he's really dear. So there were a couple chapters I could have skipped because of spiciness. And then this one, we have the third oldest brother with a woman who he once ruined her house. He fixes homes for a living. He's a contractor, I guess, and she really hates him after he ruined her bathroom. It's pretty bad. This is 7 years later, though, after she's gone through a divorce. Her confidence is really low, and so she enters a club of a certain kind in order to branch out, try new things, be adventurous, whereas she finds him instead, and he immediately wants to be protective, and the two of them enter an agreement just to sort of help her become fully herself and confident as a newly single plus-size woman. And I love that. This also is set a lot at Mexico on the beaches because of their wedding and honeymoon, which was so much fun. And so we get a lot of fun beachy vibes here as well. So if you're wanting to go on a little staycation, I highly recommend it. I really, really enjoyed Road Trip with a Rogue, which is book 3 of Her Majesty's Rebels. We have a woman who is part of Her Majesty's Rebels, which is a group of women who perform like secret operations for the Queen. And in this book, our heroine is trying to stop an elopement in progress. She unfortunately holds up the wrong carriage, and it happens to be a man who once had a little encounter with her that didn't go so well. So the two of them decide together to follow this couple that's eloping. He's got some of his own reasons. Actually, the whole book, there's so many fun twists. If you want a well-rounded, well-written, snappy, fast-paced, super fun, spicy road trip adventure romance, you really can't ask for more. It's got it all. It's got everything but a car chase, a carriage chase. Actually, okay, never mind. Another one of my favorites was another historical romance. This one was originally set in America. He heads over to England. This is more during the Victorian period, so we're a little bit later than Regency with the book I just mentioned. This is The Finest Print by Aaron Langston. I thoroughly enjoyed this. For many people I know, this is like a 6-star for them. It's one of their favorite historical romances, along with Aaron Langston's Forever Your Rogue. That's another fantastic one. This one didn't quite hit as highly as Forever Your Rogue for me, but I still really enjoyed it, hence why it's in this video. We have a man, as I mentioned, who came from America, left his solid, stable job with a newspaper to hopefully start his own newspaper in England. He's thrilled because it's been left to him. Unfortunately, it's underwater. He's got to get it out of debt if he's even got any hope of making it. And he's like, what am I going to do now? I've got 2 people working for me. I have nothing to print. And I've got like a room full of paper that's not even enough quality to print newsprint on. However, he gets this idea that he could print Penny Dreadfuls, these like a series of stories where people will go weekly and buy the next edition. And they don't have to be printed on perfect paper. So now he needs someone who's able to write said Penny Dreadfuls to get him out of debt. He happens to meet a woman who is an author, and because she's a woman, no one wants to print her stuff. Except for him. He's willing to, if she's willing to print these. And she's a little bit nervous about doing it because it's not exactly respectful work, so she writes under a pseudonym. But what happens next is wonderful. I loved the ensemble cast. I loved all the, the characters that were working at the newspaper office. I loved getting to meet her and her family. Of course, the chemistry between our hero and heroine is initially somewhat adversarial because they're butting heads about what's going to be in the plot of the story, how it's coming out, how quickly he can print it, etc., etc. But as you can imagine, this workplace romance, it's a lot of fun. There's a great deal of character growth. And because both of them start out so far down in terms of their lives and what they're looking for, you can imagine the incredible payoff and the end of this happily ever after. So much fun. And last but certainly not least, I have to mention book 3 of the Texas trilogy by Lorraine Heath. This is Texas Splendor, featuring Austin, a young man who we grew to know and love within the first 2 books, who has just been released from 5 years in prison as our 3rd book begins. He wants to clear his name because even though he's out, there's still a stigma surrounding him. On his quest to clear said name, he happens upon a woman named Lori who's living on the outskirts of society, but we don't know why. She's got secrets, he's got secrets, they have a one-night stand that leads to more. There were parts of this book that were cringy, there were parts of this book that were bonkers, but ultimately, I really enjoyed seeing what was going to happen. There were things that were set up within the 2nd book that finally we find out what happened in the end of the 3rd. So in many ways, it's quite epic. But another thing that I loved about this story is that we get to see Dallas and Houston, the 2 older brothers, now happily married with children, which, as we may know from having read any Lorraine Heath's, she puts her characters through it. So these were hard-won happy endings for both of these brothers, and to get to see them so happy and content, there's another word beside happy, was really, really satisfying. And I'm really looking forward to reading the fourth book. It's really a novella. It's like book 3.5 in the series, Texas Legacy, featuring adopted son Raleigh, where he gets his happy ending. So I'm really looking forward to that, but it's not on audio. So I need to find time to read it with my eyeballs. So that should be easy, hopefully. So those were my top 10 of summer. I read so many wonderful books this past autumn, but today we're going to talk about my top 10. Hi, my name's Bea. Welcome to my channel, Mama Needs to Read Romance, and just bring you the highlights. I've already talked about the vast majority of these in my monthly wrap-ups for both September and October. So rather than just repeat myself, I thought, how can I make this valuable to you? So today I'm going to tell you just a bullet point list of vibes I got, tropes you can expect, where you can find these for free. I'll also give you the taglines just to give you a taste of what these are about. And maybe some scenes that live rent-free in my head. Don't worry, there are no spoilers. Now the first one is one I've never spoken about. This is A Christmas House Guest by Carla Kelly. I listened to the audio because I got the arc from NetGalley, but you can find this in Harlequin's Snowbound Regency Christmas anthology. It says, when a snowstorm stops their mail coach, Rosie offers a fellow passenger sanctuary at her farm. War-weary from the Navy, Andy will find his Christmas angel hard to leave. Oh, it was so perfect. I'll refer to the graphic I made for my review since this just came out in the month of November. We've got epic caretaking. It's sweet clean with two beautifully heroic MCs or main characters. We have a Navy man on leave from war with mutual pining, and it's a novella, so you can get through this in one evening. Now again, it just came out, so right now you can find it for free only on Storytel. If you're curious about the kind of vibes you can expect, it reminded me of A Holiday by Gaslight by Mimi Matthews, and also many of the Mary Jo Putney Christmas novellas, such as In the Bleak Midwinter. Let's talk about my 5-star. I actually had the pleasure of interviewing this author who, in my mind, would be as big as Emily Henry, Abby Jimenez, all the top ones. She just hasn't been discovered enough yet. Make sure you put her on your list. This is Sarah Chamberlain's Love Walked In. The tagline says, a sunshiny American bookstore whisperer clashes with the grumpy British owner of the shop she's trying to save in this winning opposites attract romance for book lovers. Let's talk tropes. We've got British bookshop owner hero, American bookshop fixer heroine, grumpy sunshine, enemies to lovers, again, gorgeous caretaking. If you're looking for vibes, this honestly reminded me a great deal of Notting Hill, but with more enemies to lovers energy. The tropes are good to know, but this goes far deeper than I would have thought. So keep that in mind, especially if you love a good deep drama. Has some beautiful spice. This is a standalone and one that as of right now, you can't get free anywhere. Sorry about that. The rest of the books in this video got a near perfect 4.5 stars from me. And we're starting off with one, the only other one actually, now that I think of it, that I have not mentioned yet on my channel, which is Honeymoon Phase by Amy Dawes. This one just came out in the month of November. And again, I was very pleased to have the arc. I got the audio, which is narrated to perfection by Teddy Hamilton and Aaron Mallon. This book is the third of, I think, 4 so far, at least, in the Mountain Men Matchmaker series, all of whom have made me just go crazy. It's like, if you're looking for vibes, Chloe Lease type books of found family, unconditional love with sweet, sweet characters, but add a little more spice, a little more raunch, a little more language. Probably. The tagline says, fact or fiction, proposing to your best friend so she can inherit her family business is a great idea. Let's talk about the tropes again. I'd reviewed this, so I made my own trope graphic. It's marriage of convenience with forced proximity on a mountain in the snow. He falls first with a fantastic ensemble cast of found family goodness, and we have friends to lovers here. And of course, there's a cute rooster. There's always a fun pet. Not only is this audiobook gorgeous, but so is the physical copy. I cannot find mine anywhere, of course. I'll find it right after I film this, but it's got gorgeous, gorgeous sprayed edges and an embossed cover. Oh, it's beautiful. You can find this one free on Hoopla, Kindle Unlimited, Kobo Plus, Everand, and Storytel. Let's talk about some more historical romance goodness with Claiming the Princess. The tagline states, USA Today bestselling author Karis Michaels, or Sherry Michaels, concludes her delicious Hidden Royals series in this enchanted romance between a young woman unaware of her royal birth and the rugged sea captain who comes to claim her as his future wife. There's so much more to this. You will love it. Let's talk tropes. As with everything else, I read this early, so I did a review creating a graphic of tropes. We've got hidden identity, a cinnamon roll pirate, age gap, daring rescues, letters go back and forth. I know you guys love that. With great spice. And an A+ heroine. Oh, I just loved her. She's one of my favorites. As I mentioned, this is book 3 of the trilogy. Though I've only read the first one, you could really enjoy this without having read either of the books in the series. The village vibes gave me shades of His Maddening Matchmaker by Virginia Heath, which was another great one. Some scenes that live rent-free in my head happened to be part of the spice, which was very unique in terms of settings, including tiny islands and abandoned mansions. Sorry for the dogs barking, but they'll never stop. And you can find this free on Everand and Storytel. Speaking of books you can find for free on Everand and Storytel, let's talk about Ladies in Waiting, Jane Austen's unsung characters. I did do, again, a graphic because I got this early. It just came out this past fall. It's 9 powerhouse historical romance authors who give beloved secondary characters from Jane Austen novels their happily ever afters. There are 8 unique stories that take place anywhere from Louisiana and the first half of the 20th century. We've also got New York City present day, but we have the characters that we know from these books, some of which have never been on the page. See, I'm already talking too much again. I need to pare it back. This, of course, is a standalone, but this reads even better if you're familiar with Jane Austen's works. Authors such as Eloisa James, Emily Harding, Audrey Bellezza, Sarah MacLean, Nikki Payne, Eleanor Lippman, Karen Duquesne, Diana Quincy, and Adriana Trigiani all make this a standout and one to read, especially if you're a Jane Austen fan. Kate Duquesne, who I'd never heard before, actually probably wrote my favorite, which was also the shortest one. It reminded me a lot of The Awakening by Kate Chopin, that classic tale from over 100 years ago now. Duquesne covers longing and a woman's ultimate resilience in this tale. And Nikki Payne's novella reminded me a great deal of another book that came out this year, actually, Savannah Royals by Lindsay Barrett. Payne delivers Southern charm and then some, just like in Lindsay Barrett's book. Of course, I need to do my plug again for our Jane Austen read-along, which is coming in 2026. More on that coming soon. Let's talk about a book we read for Tea and Biscuits Book Club that was a huge hit, The Autumn Bride by Anne Gracie. Looking at the tagline, it says, from the beloved award-winning Anne Gracie comes this brand new series about 4 young women on the verge of destitution, until a daring act changes their fortune and transforms each of them into a glowing bride. For fans of Mary Balogh, Julia Quinn, and Stephanie Lawrence. Tropes include class difference, found family, and banter, / just general hilarity. It reminded me a great deal of the Wallflower series by Lisa Kleypas because this friend group is a sisterhood and it is such a strong bond. Often attempted, very few times truly successful. While most of The Autumn Bride is devoid of chemistry, honestly, that's fine because it's mostly about the girl group, which is totally fine. There is a spicy scene with all the trimmings towards the end. This is book 1 of 5 in a series that is already completed. You can find it free on AnyPlay, Hoopla, and Everand. Let's talk about Sangumandana's latest release, which just came out this year, A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping. The tagline says, a whimsical and heartwarming novel about a witch who has a second chance to get her magical powers and her life back on track. From the national best-selling author of The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. Is it cheating if I say that that's what this book reminded me of? That's what I was gonna say. Also, it is a standalone, so if you have not read The Very Secret Society of or regular witches, you're completely fine. The tropes that I would highlight are cozy, magic, found family with super tender, endearing characters and a strong heroine. It's atmospheric with an epic ending that doesn't disappoint. The vast majority of this is engaging and cozy at the same time, which is also very hard to achieve. Though it's lighter on spice and chemistry, we do get glimmers of that with one or two open door scenes that are not super descriptive. You can find this for free on Everand. Another twist on Jane Austen is one that, I received as an ARC. This is Joanne Bischoff DeWitt's The Heart of Bennett Hollow. The tagline says, an Appalachian farmer's daughter and a wealthy businessman find a surprising love, but must reckon with what divides them in this retelling of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice by the award-winning author of The Lady and the Lionheart. This is a sweet, clean story by a Christian author who gives a dash religion and spirituality. Regardless of your background, I think that you could enjoy this. It also is very atmospheric. I felt like I was there. It moves slowly, but the pace never felt boring. She reminds me of Gabrielle Meyer, another Christian romance author who takes us through time and can weave a yarn. This is a standalone that you can find on Hoopla, Kobo Plus, and Everand for free. Looking at my trope graphic, we've got He Falls First, class difference, sweet, clean, inspirational, small town with autumn and Christmas settings. I had forgotten that. I'm glad I remembered. Great for this time of year. Let's talk about the most offbeat book I read all year. This is Undead and Unwed by Sam Sheeta. This is another standalone. I liked it so much that I've actually already requested her next arc. Let's talk about this one though. There's a quote that says, the found family vampire Hallmark movie I didn't know I needed by Jenna Levine, USA Today bestselling author of My Roommate is a Vampire. We also get the tagline, Bridget Jones's Diary meets What We Do in the Shadows in this bitingly funny supernatural romance about a vampire finding herself and falling in love during the Christmas season. So yes, this is great for the holidays. You can find it for free on Hoopla and Storytel. If we look at my list of tropes, because as always, I read this as an arc, we've got small town, Christmas, vampire heroine, love triangle, mystery, quirky cast of characters for sure, laugh out loud funny, oh my gosh, I laughed so hard, and found family. One scene that lives in my head rent free is the Christmas scene that got pretty steamy for quite a few reasons. One being because they're vampires. They can't listen to Christmas music without actually steaming. It's something else. And last but certainly not least, let's talk about Autumn Nights, Holiday Lights by Elle Douglas, who I am now obsessed with. You can find this book for free on Everand. The tagline simply states, the snow may be fake, but could the romance be real? And yet again, because I read this as an arc, here's my graphic with list of tropes. Second chance, small town, fade to black, adorable puppy, hero is a wealthy director, and there's forced proximity. The forced proximity is because her ex-boyfriend is back in town now directing the Christmas movie that she wrote. So of course, this reminded me of a really good Hallmark movie. This, by the way, is book 2 of the Sugar Maple Falls series. I don't know if there are more in the works. Fingers crossed. And I have to say, this book has incredible settings that are perfect for some escapism, especially this time of year, including, as I mentioned, small town, but we've also got a wealthy director, also mentioned, but he's got access to things like fancy schmancy hotels, private jets, and glitzy parties. Well, those were my top 10. What were yours? Or at least tell me one if you want to. You can also just leave me a fall emoji. Let me know if you liked this new kind of setup I have for my top 10s, which I'll be doing every quarter. And just so you know, I looked in Everand, AnyPlay, Hoopla, Kindle Unlimited, Storytel, and Kobo for free books. I didn't mention Libby because I know everybody's Libby and Overdrive are different depending on your library. If there's something I forgot, let me know. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're enjoying whatever it is you're reading, regardless of what season it is. Until next time, thanks so much. Take care. Bye.